Hello and welcome to another exciting video. In this one, we'll be looking at how we can pass Supabase session cookie to API route to identify user. The first thing that we are doing is whenever a user is clicking on the subscribe button, we are passing the plan ID to a new API that we have created under the directory API/subscription. And there we are trying to identify the user so that we can map the plan ID to that particular logged in user. Now here, this event that we have, process subscription, you'll notice that we are providing it on the on-click event of the subscribe button. And to process this, we are making use of the Axios library, which you can easily install by running this command npm I axios. In order to access the cookies, we'll be installing another package npm I cookie. So once these two packages are installed and we have this API code written, what we need to do is we need to create this particular API. So you can see that we have this API directory. Under that we have subscription, and here we have the id.js file. Now within this id.js file, we are doing two things. First of all, we are importing the Supabase, and then we are using the get user cookie. Now, before diving further in this particular file, let's go and explore the cookie file that we have created. So here in the cookie file, we are importing the cookie from the cookie package, and here we have two methods. First is the parse cookie, the other one is the get user cookie. If you see, the parse cookie is just checking the request.headers.cookie, and if you see the get user cookie, it is making use of the parse cookie, retrieving all the cookies, and then if it finds a cookie with the key user, it's going to fetch that, it's going to parse it. Otherwise, it will just log this error in the console. So we have the cookie file which takes care of the parsing of the cookies. Now let's go back to the file id.js. Here we can see that we are passing the request over here. We're calling the get user cookie. Using that, we are retrieving the user, and then we are making use of this user cookie to identify whether we have a proper value or not. If not, we are sending unauthorized. Otherwise, we are using that to get the ID of the user, and then we are fetching the data from the Supabase table profile, and here we are selecting the Stripe customer. Now once that's done, we are returning this as a response. So we are returning the user and the Stripe customer ID. One thing to note over here is that we need to set this cookie before reading it, and we can do that by going into our context user.js file. So here you'll notice we have this additional use effect implemented, which is calling a particular API that's set Supabase cookie. And here we are passing two things, the event and the user. Now the event has a value signed in if the user is logged in, otherwise signed out. And then we are passing the user itself. So if I go to set Supabase cookie.js, you'll see that we are again importing the cookie and using the serialize from this package. Then we are checking if the method is post. We are retrieving these two things, event and user. And if the event is signed in, then we are setting the cookie, as you can see over here. Finally, we are getting this response back. So using this approach, we are able to set the user once they're logged in, and then we are retrieving the user information when the user is clicking on the subscribe button using the cookie. Now, if I run this one, here you can see that in the pricing section, we have the subscribe button coming up. And if I close this, click on subscribe, you'll notice that here we're calling this API subscription price. And if I go to the response, you'll get the Stripe customer ID coming up over here. And here you get all the other required user data that we have stored in the cookie. If I show you the application over here, you can see the cookies and then this cookie value over here. So this is the key and this is the value that we are storing in the cookie. And then we are retrieving it once the user is clicking on the subscribe button.